Hello everyone, I'm Jessie Maryse with Level Up CCL, bringing you tips, tools, and strategies to increase and maximize your financial gains, your innovation, your teamwork, your productivity, and your customer service. Today we're going to talk about 12 communication tips for leadership. Is communication important? What are the three main ways that we communicate? What are the 12 tips of communication that leaders can implement right now? And what's that golden nugget that holds them all together? We'll be answering these questions in the video coming right up. I'm really jazzed that we're talking about this today because communication is the foundation for being a human in a society. You know, whether you're at home with your family, at work with your coworkers, at school, and even more so if you're a leader, whether you're in middle management, an executive, a business owner, communication is the foundation, the number one quality above all else that you need. Is communication important to be a leader? I think it's the foundation. I don't think we can be an effective business leader without having good to great to excellent communication skills. I mean, how else are you going to deliver and have an effective one-on-one with an employee and having a productive team meeting to carry out a project, or whether you're delivering a message to the entire company or your own department? What if you're going to see a bank to get a loan, the presentation of that information? If you're meeting with the board of directors, presenting a new project or request for more money, or here's why we didn't meet the goals that we had. Whether you're communicating with them, with your customers, your online presence, your face-to-face with your customers, you can easily lose a customer based on a bad experience. So communication is really the foundation. And as leaders, we're modeling that for our employees. When communication is not done properly, it deals more damage than anything else. Productivity, costly mistakes, disgruntled employees, now they go talk to other employees and now everybody's wasting time, so you have a huge loss of productivity. It can turn into poor customer service. It could even turn into lawsuits. So what are the three main ways that we communicate? Number one, nonverbal, right? Your posture, your body language, your stance, your facial expressions, that says a lot about you even before you speak. Number two, verbal, your tone of voice, the words that you use, the way your sentences are constructed. So what could number three be? I'm curious to see what you come up with for number three. I encourage you to press pause and type in your answers in the comments below. Number three is energy. Your energy comes before you. You're going to have a very different energy if you just found out you got a big raise or a huge bonus or a promotion versus if you were demoted or fired. Your energy is going to affect your verbal and your nonverbal. There are so many different things that we can do for communication, but I think that these 12 are foundational. And I know I see it sometimes in myself and I see it in others around me where we could have done better. So I wanted to start with these foundational things that we can actually master that have a big impact. Number one is caring about what people have to say. And I know this sounds like an obvious one, but let's take a look at this for a moment. So you're busy, you're getting yourself ready for your next meeting or presentation or whatever it is, the big project you're working on. And then an employee comes to your door and starts telling you about something. And you're quickly analyzing what they're saying, that maybe that's a big problem for them, but that for you right now, that's not a big priority. So what unconsciously happens when things are not a priority for us is our eyes start to wander, our body language changes, our body may shift to where our priorities are. And then we're doing that while we're thinking about what they're saying while not really paying attention. And then we come up with a solution and we're quick to offer it. Now that employee receives that solution. Now we've just fooled ourselves thinking that we just offered a real solution, but it's actually not. It was more like check the box and good riddance. And I know that sounds harsh, but that is sometimes what happens. It's not meant that way. It's unconsciously happening that way. Now the employee receives it. They're now realizing how this is not being handled with care. This is not a real solution. This is not going to work. They feel blown off. And now took you just did a disservice to trust, and you chipped away at the relationship, which is not good long term. Now, if you've already got a really great rapport with an employee and this happens, you may still be able to salvage it because you can like go fix it later. But if you don't and you just leave it like that, and then this happens again, even if it's a long time in between, people remember those moments, and then it's affecting the relationship. So caring about what people have to say is so very important. So if this situation ever happens, there's 5, sometimes even 6 things that I do in those moments. If the employee has a very long story to tell me, like it's going on and on, but I need to go somewhere, I'll be totally upfront with them. So number 1 is, this is not the right time for me. I see you need help right away. I need about an hour. I can get back to you in an hour. Can it wait that long? If they say no, then you might refer them to maybe your supervisor or another or lead or another person in a leadership position that could maybe help them right away. You can also develop like a code red. Is this a code red where I have to drop everything I'm doing because this is so important? Or, is this a code orange where we can delegate this to somebody else because I'm in a rush and I'll follow you up afterwards? So there's kind of those things you can have in place, if you have a rapport with people. So that's my number 1. But it's not always that way. So that one, it kind of depends on the situation. So my other number 1 would be, they just talked, they said what it is. So then I ask myself, what's the real problem? Because sometimes what the employee's problem is not the real problem. So what's the real problem? And then number 2 is, what impact does that have for them? Does it need, like, how important is that for them? Because sometimes things are lower priority. You can say, hey, I'll get back to you. But if it seems like this is a high priority, and if you're not sure, it's okay to ask them. Like, is this a high priority item for you? Like, does this need attention right now in this next hour? Because if not, you can say, let me check back with you in an hour. If it is, then again, you can delegate. And number 3 is how does this fit in my priorities? And this level of thinking happens in seconds, right? You go through this. Now, what is the priority for me? Like, is this something like I really will have to tell my boss that I can't come to our meeting? I've got this big thing that just happened. Or is it what we just discussed before? So I evaluate the priority for me. And then I go to resolve and fixing. What does the resolve and fixing look like? Because you want to take appropriate time for that as well. When we glance and try to brush off fixing and resolution things, finding resolutions to things, it can be viewed as lack of care, and it can be viewed as the leader just doesn't care, doesn't give a damn, whatever else the employees might say. And then I want to convey what I have to say with value and care, right? If I'm in a rush, tell them, I'm in a rush. I will get back to you at 3 o'clock today. I'll give you a call right after my meeting. Something so even though you can't handle it at this moment, the employee still knows that you're going to take care of this. And make sure you follow through. Number 2, your posture, your stance, so important. If you're like slouching in your office and an employee comes, it doesn't give a good vibe. I mean, would you do that if your boss walked in? Probably not. Would you do that if the board or a very important VIP would show up? Probably not. So that same level of care that we have towards those individuals also applies with employees as they come. That's all going to affect how they perceive you. Number 3, body language. What are you saying with your body? Someone's at the door, an employee, a coworker comes at your door, starts talking to you, and you are not facing them. You're looking this way, but your body is still pointed towards your computer, showing that this is the priority, make it quick. And sometimes that's okay, but if an employee comes and they have a serious concern, that's probably not the best body language to have. Or maybe you were reading an email on your phone or getting ready to send a text, and now an employee comes and you're just like, that also gives a certain, depending on the intensity that they have, it is very good that make people feel valued. Put the phone down, face them, head facing them, very important. Number 4, head movements. Have you ever been in a meeting and you're the presenter, the leader presenter, and there's a few people in the audience going, it's like overdone. So they think that they're conveying agreement. But actually, what's happening is that they're conveying not paying attention. And it's clear to us leaders that are presenting. So be sure that when you're the one in the audience, that you're not, whether it's even on a one-on-one, I've had this situation with another leader where as I'm talking, they're like, I can tell they're not paying attention. And it's simple. You just have to ask a question and they're like, what's that? So head nodding. Be very careful with that it's not overly done. Number 5, facial expressions. Now, some people are more expressive than others, and we usually can tell by their bigger than life personality. We do have to be careful that it's not overly done. There are certain moments where it can be viewed as just too much. So if you're in a one-on-one or a small group meeting and someone's constantly like, it just seems like fake and it seems like they don't care. So as leaders, we want to be careful that we're not the ones doing that when someone's talking to us. A little bit more neutral. Number 6, eye movements. Have you ever talked with somebody and all of a sudden the person you're talking to starts going like this and peeking at their phone and looking at their watch and peeking down at the iPad, and you can tell they're not focused. And when people are not paying attention and are not focused, it seems again like they don't care or they don't take things seriously. And some employees might make it a personal, like they don't care about me, when sometimes that's not the case. I once was in a meeting with another leader, and that leader said to me, during our meeting, I am expecting a very important phone call. So occasionally I will be looking at my phone and maybe checking my iWatch just to see if maybe an email came through. So every now and then that person peeked and I was fine with it because I understood. When I saw their focus wandering, I stopped speaking, let them do what they had to do. And then when they said, okay, I'm good, then I continue on. I thought that was very respectful. Listening. It's amazing how much there's out there about listening. I Googled it the other day and there's like 10 various types of listening. So I think there's only 2. Now, some people will argue there's 3, which, okay. So there's 2, 3. You're listening, you're not listening, or you are somewhat listening. That would be number 3. So somewhat listening can happen because if somebody just comes up to you and starts talking, you're finishing your train of thought. So you know they're talking, but you're also thinking about what you were thinking before. And now you're like, I'm sorry, what? And you have to ask them to repeat. And that is quite all right. That is quite respectful to do that. Better than pretending that you heard and then you have no clue what just happened. So don't be shy. Ask questions. Make sure you pay attention and that you listen. Listening does not mean agreeing. I know sometimes there's misconception, especially if someone that you don't have a really good rapport comes to talk to you. We kind of like the walls go up and then we half listen. Listen does not mean agreeing. Listening does not mean you have to act on it. Listening does not mean anything. Just listen and see what comes up. Number 8, curiosity. So important as a leader, especially. I think in all ways, but mainly as a leader, to be curious when people are speaking to us. Because what happens unconsciously, and I've done this myself, I've been working on myself too, is that people start talking and we, based on our biases and our judgments we have from them, we've already decided where they might be going with this, what their thoughts are, what they're concluding about the situation. And then we're not really curious about what they have to say, and we're quick to offer solutions. And so to be more neutral and to be more curious about what people have to say, and maybe ask them why they're thinking that way. What made them think that? What happened that this is now the conclusion or their point of view? Makes it very dynamic, and we can learn a lot about people that way. And that's how we can also maybe see if that is the real problem or not the real problem. Just before we continue, I want to pass the question on to you. So what do you do to be an effective communicator, especially in relationship to leadership? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've been getting value out of this video, tap the like button. Number 9, trust. Trust is built in the small things. So when the big things happen, trust is already established. It can increase from there and it can be blown out from there as well. Brené Brown has an amazing video where she talks about the 7 components of trust and how it's built. I'll put a link in the description below. But her research showed that trust was built in the small moments and the small things. So be honest, take responsibility for your mistakes. Number 10, follow up. What I call FU. I came up with FU many, many years ago where I was constantly calling vendors and clients and taking notes, and I was trying to find all these short ways to write, and there was born FU, which meant follow up. And so to this day, I use it. So make sure you follow up, whether it's an email, a text, a phone call. We have so many different ways we can communicate, preferably in person, but sometimes that's not always possible. So make sure you follow up, follow through and follow up. Have you ever been in a situation where you needed help right away and your leader delegated that to somebody else who came to help you, and your leader never followed up with you to see how things went? Then you remember that leader who they delegated and followed up with you afterwards. Hey, earlier I sent so and so. How did that go? How did you guys resolve that? And then the follow up. How did that make you feel? If you have another boss above you. Number 11, go see people where they are. There are certain positions, whether you're in a department store, in a manufacturing plant, in a grocery store, there are many different environments where employees cannot leave their work areas. So as the leader, when you want to follow up or if you have something to tell them, go see them. We hear that sometimes leaders who are sitting in their offices paging employees. And these employees can't leave their station. And there's been many talks about this, various industries. And so don't make the employees go on a goose hunt. It's really easy. You can send them a text and be like, hey, I can follow up with you at this time. I'll come see you at this time. You can also leave a note on your door. Like, there are many different ways that we can prevent employees from going on a goose hunt. Number 12, have a grab and go package. So if you're leading a team and you're going to have regular meetings, or if you're going to have a meeting and yet you're planning and you're seeing how I'm usually in that conference room a half hour, 45 minutes beforehand to prep everything. But now I have a meeting. I can't be there in time to do that. So might as well have a grab and go package. So what I used to do is I would print everything I needed for that meeting, because at that moment in time, that team was not a very digital team. It was a more paper-ish team that worked better. The efficiency was better, so I was willing to do that. Printed everything we needed, put it on the corner of my desk with a post-it called project, so they knew that was for our team. And then I would text them. I would say, hey, can somebody grab that stack of papers on my desk? Can somebody else grab the snack box? Because I'm a firm believer in having snacks in most meetings. Depending on the kind of meeting, food gathers, food brings people together. It doesn't need to cost a fortune, just a few snacks. So grab the snack box. Another person, can you please grab the water? So when I would get to the meeting, they had already started looking at the agenda, the team executional planner. So they knew what was coming up. Everything was already in place, so we could still start somewhat on time. So having a grab and go package and communicating ahead of time so that the team can get that going. Everybody loves to contribute. And that was also good communication instead of me just arriving late and not saying anything. Now, before I reveal the golden nugget of communication, I want to share some very important stats with you. According to expertmarket.com, 97% of workers believe that communication impacts their tasks every day. 97, that's a lot. Employees who feel their voice is heard in the workplace are almost 5 times more likely to feel empowered to deliver their best work. almost 5 times more. 86% of employees cite the lack of effective collaboration and communication as the main causes for workplace failures. Miscommunication costs companies with 100 employees on average $420,000 a year. 64% of businesses list communicating their strategy, values, and purpose to employees as a key priority. That's really awesome. A report by Trade Press Services shows that as many as 85% of employees claim they are most motivated when regularly updated about company news and information. One Gallup estimate shows that only 50% of employees know what their managers expect from them. Poor communication is affecting trust for 45% of workers. The golden nugget of communication is being genuine. We talked about the 3 ways that we communicate: verbal, nonverbal, and energy. And when we are not genuine, that can be felt. Energy does not lie. Fake it till you make it does not apply to genuineness. We're more critical of our leaders. When we as leaders are responding in a way that is not being genuine, it can be felt. Thank you so much. And if you've enjoyed this video and you've got value out of this video, please tap the like button. That makes a difference for us.